John Mariotti, our Rotarian from Shapeshifter Enterprises, has agreed to give us a summary of his latest book, Roadmap to Profitable Growth, which provides the complete package of where and how to seek profitable growth, what to do to win competitively based upon value, information, and knowledge, how to build a business that can win consistently, and how to document and execute the plans required to do so. John comes to us after 50 years in business, most notably with Huffy and with Rubbermaid. So with that, without further ado, fellow Rotarian, John Mariotti.
I wanted to share with you a couple of thoughts. First of all, the definition of confidence, somebody told me one time. Confidence is a feeling you have just before you realize what you agreed to do. Okay? You all get that, right? I'm not going to do what I call my standard presentation on the contents of this book. First of all, it takes too long. Secondly, I'd have to wake a third of you up to tell you the meeting was adjourned. What I'm going to do is share with you some things that I hope you will find interesting. For those who don't know what the book looks like, it looks like this. It's not terribly expensive. It's not terribly thick. What you find is you write a lot of books, they get thinner and thinner. I'm not sure if that's because you get dumber or smarter and leave out all the nonsense that you don't need to put in there. This book came to life as a result of observations that I made from working with companies where I was on boards or as a consultant. And when I was having it edited, somebody said to me, you know, with just a few changes, that could be roadmap to personal growth. So today I'm going to test you. I think we have a pretty smart audience today. F. Scott Fitzgerald once said, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. So you'll be able to figure out whether I'm able to do it, and then we'll see if I can convey it to you. I am going to tell you about the business relevance of the book, which is where it was born. And at each point, I'm going to jump sideways to the topic of personal relevance and see if I can cause you to think. A college professor of mine once told me something I've never forgotten, and it's been a long time ago. There is no extent to which a man will not go to avoid the real labor of thought. How true that was. Now, he was seeing college students, so he was especially on target. I was sitting on a bunch of boards, and all of you know that the world has been growing rather slowly for the last decade. And this was before the last decade, and these companies were having trouble with growth. One of them was growing rapidly, and the faster they grew, the less money they made. Well, that wasn't any good. The other one was not growing, and their profits were going down and down and down as they kept proliferating products. Those of you who got a copy of my complexity book know that I'm death on complexity, because proliferation is not the same as innovation. All it does is burden you with more work and less revenue. And then I was on a private equity board, and I ended up speaking to a group of CEOs. And before I spoke to them, I said, why don't you poll them and see what the most important topic they'd like to talk about would be? You know, the answer was profitable growth. Many of you who are involved with me in the Veterans Mentoring Program knows that I show this to the veterans. I show this to everybody these days, because I don't think it matters who you are. This is the picture of what your life should be, I hope. The circle on the right is what you love. That's why the heart is in it. The circle on the left is the star. That's what you're good at. And the circle below is what you can get rewards for, monetary rewards or psychic rewards. Because I was told by an editor one time who paid me a very small amount of money for writing, it isn't the money you get out of this job, it's the psychic rewards. And I said, well, can I take that to Kroger? And he said, no. So think about this as a metaphor for your life, for what choices you're going to make. That little shaded area in the middle, that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to live. That's where you want to be. It's a constant battle to find it. And once you find it, hanging on to it's a constant battle. And so it is in business too. Now, the problem in things are that opportunities are everywhere, but resources are limited. There's only 3 resources any of us have available to us: time, talent, and treasure. There aren't any others. And time is perishable, as I'm learning as I get older and older. So the challenge now is to figure out where we're going to spend those resources, on what opportunities, which ones are the ones that will yield what we really want. which in business is not just growth, it's profitable growth. If you don't get growth, the Wall Streeters think your company is not dynamic anymore, not vital anymore. If you don't get profit, your investors say, phooey on you, boy. I put my money in, I want my money back with some return on it. So you got to get both. It's not either or. It's not just the passing game or the running game. You got to score touchdowns, because touchdowns are the only place you get points. Profitable growth comes at an intersection. I realized this while making another speech. Something about telling people what you think you know is really a great learning experience, because it forces you to figure out whether you really do know that or not, or whether you just think you know it. I had 15 presidents or CEOs of companies from 11 countries. And I didn't realize how significant that was. One of them, by the way, was the guy that had been given hundreds of millions of dollars by United Arab Emirates to form Emirates Airlines. This is about 10 years ago. And the question they had is, how can you keep these people engaged during lunch hour? No slides, no PowerPoint, just a presentation. So my questions for them were, first, what business are you in? What is the strategic alignment of what you're spending your time, treasure, and talent on is on what business? Or more importantly, what business do you think you're in? Because I would tell you that a lot of people think they're in one business when in fact they're in a different business. And the litmus test of what business you're in is the one where people will give you money for what you do. If they won't give you money for it, I was on a board one time where this guy kept telling me about this great division, and it was using 30% of our resources and generating 2% of our revenue. I suggested to him that that was sort of an upside-down relationship and that that was not going to last for long. But the real takeaway from this, if you take nothing else away from what I say today, is this next statement. Look at past proven success and ask yourself this question. The last time that you won in any competitive situation, whatever it was, why did you deserve to win, given the competition that you were facing? I didn't say, why did you win? I said, why did you deserve to win? Just imagine if you would take a minute or 2 or 3 or 5 and think about what it was that helped you win. Now, conversely, you can think about what it was that kept you from winning, but that won't necessarily help you win again. It might help you avoid it next time, it might not. That's why the 2 legs on that are labeled strategic alignment at the base. You got to know what business you're in, and it better be the one that you're really in, not the one that you think you're in or that you wish you were in. And the second one is path 2, which is past proven success, because that's the litmus test. Now, let's stop for a minute and jump to life. In life, what do you want most? What do you want most in your life? My answer would be health and happiness. That's a pretty good one, isn't it? If you have those 2, a lot of other things will happen. But that doesn't just happen. You have to work at it. You have to work at it. You have to stop and think. What do you want to think about? When's the last time you were really happy? Really happy. It could be something small. A 62-3 win the other night wasn't bad. Okay? But when is the last time you were really happy about something? And how can you find that happiness again? Past proven success. Where can you find that happiness again? And if you're not where you can find it again, why not? Why not go there or do that? What made you so happy about it? One of the most profound questions, I spoke to a group at our Enterprise Academy, and these were 25 seniors in high school, Columbus City Schools. And when the questions were sort of running down, one of the kids raised his hand and said, pardon me, but what makes you happy? Interesting, huh? What makes you happy? So you are the master of your own destiny in life and in business. Now, the challenge, though, is too often, and I found this from a couple of these board spots too, we don't go after big opportunities. Somehow we devalue ourselves. Big opportunities are great. You know why? If you get them, wow. You You get whatever you want, the bonus, the big customer, the big position, the big success. But even if you don't get all of them, even if you just get a piece of them, maybe it's a pretty decent foothold and gives you a chance to grow more. So find big opportunities. If I said to you, what do you want to sell in your business? And you tell me, the next question I'm going to ask you is, who's got that business now? Because they won't part with it willingly. So your question is going to be, well, why did I deserve to get that kind of business last time? That's what I'm going to use to get it next time. But please, look for big opportunities. That's why in our club, we want to aspire to doing big good works. We do a ton of good works. They largely go unnoticed. We want to do more of them. And then look for high leverage opportunities. High leverage is where an incremental change can add a substantial amount of something. Steve was up here, we talked about scholarships. An incremental change in our scholarships is a high leverage change because we can influence the lives of all of these kids. We influence the lives of 5,000 kids with that dictionary project. The Young Heroes Scholarship, where we send 39 kids to places to see things that they could never even imagine before in their life. Big opportunities. Those are your 4 paths. It's no more complicated than that, folks. Now, you have to think. Think about these 13 questions. What do you want to sell to whom? I'm sure you've asked that question. And in life, by the way, anybody that hasn't read Abraham Maslow, Maslow's hierarchy of needs has a triangle. And at the top of the triangle is something called self-actualization. At the bottom is personal needs, survival, shelter, food. And there's a bunch of other things in the middle. But we want to get to self-actualization. In business, what do you want to sell? And who do you think you're in? And what business you think you're in? And what business you want to be in? And are they the same? You'd be amazed how many times I go in as a consultant, and about 30 minutes in, I realize this guy's telling me about what business he thinks he's in. It doesn't bear any resemblance to what he's actually in. He's trying to sell something entirely different to somebody entirely different than he thinks he is. No wonder they're not buying. He's running around with a solution looking for the problem. That's backwards. That's backwards. Find the problems. Find the unmet needs. Find the unfulfilled wants. Find those and then deliver the solution. And who has the business now? One of my great fun days with 14 divisional managers in a company we're consulting with. They were really big they were in the paving business. I won't tell you the name of the company, but they made everything from rock to road, from the rock crushers to the pavers. And they were sure they knew the market inside out because they were the big kahuna. So I said, good, I'm going to put a matrix up here. Across the top are the customers, across the bottom, across the side are the suppliers. Let's just fill in at the intersections who has how much business where. I almost needed a referee with a whistle and striped shirt. They couldn't agree. They didn't know. They never thought about it that way. And my question was, well, how can you possibly know when you want to go after a target if you don't know where it is and you don't know how big it is? There's a professor from McGill University in Canada that talks about rhinoceros management. He said too many companies are like rhinoceroses. They're big and they're powerful, but their eyesight isn't very good. So they see a dim objective off in the distance and they start to charge at it only to lose attention and go graze somewhere. Now you know that happens, okay? Now another friend of mine, John Brecky, wrote a book called Lessons from the Field. He was teaching a CEO about focus. And so they were plowing a field. And so John put him in the seat of the tractor and said, okay, plow a straight furrow. Well, you know what happened. The furrow went all over the place. And John took the tractor and he plowed a perfectly straight furrow. The guy said, how'd you do that? He said, you see that fence post way down there? I never took my eye off it. I went at that fence post every step of the way. And he said, you know what? Once I get one straight furrow, the next one and the next one and the next one become way easier. Way easier. So focus, single-minded focus on what business you're in. Why did you deserve to win when you won in that business? Where are there big opportunities? There's all kinds of information around. I don't know why people don't get more of the information. And these days of the internet, you can find out almost anything about anything, whether you want to or not. And using high leverage is underestimated. Past proven success will tell you you're already good at something. If you want to get more business, Go to the people you've been selling already. At least you don't have to convince them to buy from you again. Now, I want to share with you one of the most profound statements on your personal life, and it's a really short one. It was on my refrigerator for years. I said, the goal is health and happiness. Well, we all know what we should do about our health. We don't always do it, but we know. We can't kid ourselves. All those medicines they advertise on TV, 90% of them would be not necessary if we just did the right things lifestyle-wise. And I'm talking for somebody who's 20 pounds overweight or 25 pounds overweight. My problem is I like cookies too much, and candy, and cake, and snacks. But think about happiness. Here's a definition you can take home with you. Happiness is not having what you want. Happiness is wanting what you have. Happiness is not having what you want. Happiness is wanting what you have. What a big difference that would make if you would just burn that one into your brain. Because then you don't have to do anything except decide how do you build on that past proven success to find more happiness. And unless you think about what makes you happy, how can you possibly be happy? And if you don't take the time to plan your personal life, like you plan your business life or your other activities, why would you expect that you would not have as much fun? Plan to have fun. Look for things to do. Find things that make you feel good. That's why I do what I do in Rotary. Callaway got me into this 3.5 years ago. And here I stand. I serve on 4 committees, and I'm restraining myself from adding a 5th. I'm leading a couple of efforts, and I love it because we're helping people. We're helping young people mostly. Now, the 3 most common reasons the businesses fail, however, are number 1, having a flawed plan or no plan at all. You'd be amazed how many small businesses don't have a plan. In this book, I gave away, if anybody buys the book, a draft format for a strategic plan that I developed over about 15 years. It fits on 6 pages. If it takes more than that, you don't know what you're trying to do. You don't know what your competition is. You don't know what your issues are. And if you put down a strategy without putting a step on how you're going to implement it, forget about it. Because the second biggest flaw is the failure to be able to execute. You've seen football teams, right? I'm sure Maryland has some great plans. Unfortunately, Ohio State got in the way. Or as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face. That's what happens. You have to have a plan. But execution is critical. And for that, you have to have talent, and the people have to be engaged. And then there's another small detail that most companies overlook. Every time I ask people to calculate the cash-to-cash time, that means from the time you start developing a new product and laying out money till you get the first revenue from that product deposited in the bank. What do you think the average time was that I found over about 30 years? 9 to 12 months. Nobody would ever guess that. As long as it takes to make a baby or longer. 9 to 12 months. The cash is going out. So what happens to companies? Well, they're like a space flight. The spacecraft's got a lot of food, but they run out of oxygen, which is the cash, on the way up. So it doesn't matter how much food they have. They'll make lots of profit if they survive, but they don't. Now, I talked about prioritizing your scarce resources. I talked about what you're going to do. Work on things that will make a difference. Work on the mountains, not the molehills. Yes, it's harder to work on the mountains. Of course it is. I mean, Urban Meyer has a wonderful strategy. He says he teaches the kids, the coaches teach these kids how to do what they're supposed to do. All he asks them to do is do it for 4 to 6 seconds like their hair is on fire. Right? Commitment. It takes knowledge, it takes thought, and it takes that single-minded pursuit of excellence. No compromises. I had a high school coach that taught me, you do everything the right way all the time. And when you don't, go back and do it over again and practice it until you get it the right way. He taught me to go from being a 62% free throw shooter to an 82% free throw shooter over one summer. We probably need him here at Ohio State. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, but great guy. Now, another thought I want to share with you is, I'm an Aries. Those of you who know anything about Aries know that we think we know everything. And we usually do. No, I'm sorry. I said something like that to my wife this morning. She said, I wonder how many times in your life you've said that. I have a wife who keeps me honest and humble. A wise man named Josh Billings said this a number of years ago, and Mark Twain was given credit for it. It ain't so much the things we don't know that gets us into trouble. It's the things we thought we knew that ain't so. It ain't so much the things we knew that gets us in trouble, or don't know that gets us in trouble. It's the things we thought we knew that ain't so. That's why I go back to, what business are you in? Are you in the business you think you're in? What business should you be in? What business have people voted with their money to say that you're in? Now, I'm going to take this home to a stopping point because I don't want to go too long. The bottom line is the goal of business is to create competitive advantage. I've written a lot of books, but I've written 4 what I call big idea books. The first one was called The Power of Partnerships, which I learned by working with Walmart and Sam Walton and a bunch of others, that the choice of partners that you work with. Partnerships are interdependent relationships between people working together to achieve common goals. There has to be built on trust and honesty, open communications, and balanced risk and reward, not equal, balanced. A small company selling Walmart doesn't have to sell hundreds of millions of dollars, but they have to be balanced. So you have to pick partners. The second book I wrote was called The Shapeshifters, Continuous Change for Competitive Advantage. There's one thing I can tell you for sure. However things are today, they won't be that way tomorrow, or next month, or next year. And companies that don't adapt die. You can look at companies that are not around anymore. And there's enough of us old enough that we could sit down and make a list of about 20 that were household names 30, 40, 50 years ago. Companies don't last as long as people do, unless they do the right things. The last thing you need, and the most important thing you need, is passionate leadership. There is no substitute for a passionate leader to get a bunch of people to move. Whether you like that school up north or not, you know that something changed up there 2 years ago. Whether you like our coach here or not, some people do, some people don't, I do. But he's not, quote, a lovable guy. He's not a soft, sweet, fuzzy, but passionate leadership. He accepts nothing but the best in players, in plays, and his past proven success tells him what works. Why do you think he looked for a guy like Percy Harvin, for goodness sake? Because he knew it worked. Remember, what's your strategy? Are you selling to the customer you think you're selling to, or somebody else? What did you do last time that made you deserve to get what you got? So that you can figure out how to do it again. And where can you do it again? And that matters for life and happiness, and it matters for business, for profit. Where are big opportunities? And why are you looking at these molehills where if you work your tail off, you get a very tiny gain? And where something high leverage exists, where you already know how to do something, all you need to move, you've all heard the thing, some competitor is moving over into the next door field and everybody goes, oh my God, they're going into this. Yeah, right. I mean, the thing that strikes fear into the hearts of companies these days is Google's going into it, whatever the heck it is, because they have done that. Now, if you have the right people, and nothing is more important in business than people, and the right leadership and a plan, and execute, you win. If you have the right desires with your life, if you don't, do you have a list of dreams that you want to do? If you don't, sit down and write one down. Go to your computer, your tablet, write down things you dream about. Dream big. Why not? Check them off. Add some every year. Keep chasing them. It'll give you something every morning to get up for and say, I got to do my job today, but I'm going to pursue these dreams too. And they're going to be big. Now, at that point, I've got lots more, but I'm going to stop. And thank you all for, I'm humbled by this because I know how many brilliant people are out here. For me to be telling you this stuff, you know all this stuff. All I do is hold the mirror up. Say, look, pay attention, think, work on what's important, be good to people. Pete Johnson, the former fullback for Ohio State, told us at the quarterback club last week, get up in the morning, thank God the sun's up, be nice to people, treat them with respect, dignity, help them, right? And that's what I get from you. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation, John. We have time for a few questions, if anybody has some questions.
This is where we get to the how-to part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Steve?
Well, why don't you tell us how you deserved the Walmart and all the clients that you work for?
I will do that. I was blessed. First of all, luck doesn't last as long as skill, but it really can make a big difference, and I got lucky. I went to work for Huffy, and I was blessed with 2,000 United Steelworkers employees who knew how to make bicycles better than anybody in the world. And I found that with a few substitutions, where I moved out the cynics and the skeptics and brought in some people who had positive attitudes, about 200 management people, then all you need to do is give them a plan. And this plan is the one you can have. It's free. It's attached to your arm. You never have to look it up on a computer, and you can memorize it right now. I said, the way we are going to win in this horribly competitive market is we're going to make the absolute best quality products we can. That's on thumb. If it's no good, who cares? Doesn't matter. We're going to give terrific service, because if it isn't there when they want to buy it, can't sell it. We're going to work fast. Speed. Quality, service, and speed. Speed is the ultimate competitive advantage. Those of you who are football fans know that. But speed in business, who can react the fastest, deliver the fastest, capitalize the fastest, change the fastest. Then I said we're going to get the lowest total cost, not the first cost, total cost. That's delivered cost with all the bells and whistles. And we're going to innovate constantly. And we're going to innovate by going to actually talk to customers and look them in the eye and listen to what they tell us about what doesn't work for them, and talk to consumers and ask them about their lives. See, insights are wonderful, but insights you get from the outside are golden, because that's where all the truth comes from. That plan, quality, service, speed, cost, and innovation. And if what you're working on doesn't advance one of those, why are you working on it? And I said that so many times, I got sick of it. But you know what? Just 2 weeks ago, I went to upstate New York and did a program for one of my friends for his small business. And I used those same 5. And they loved them. And they're now working with their customers to find out the relative importance. Because all those, if you take a Rolex and a Timex wristwatches, there's a big difference in the quality of the watch. And you can't buy Rolexes everywhere, but Timex you can get at any drugstore, gas station, whatever. So quality, there's a difference. But a Timex keeps time, and a Rolex keeps better time. Once you figure out that there's a difference in each one of those, and you pattern that difference to what your customers want. Kmart wanted cheap, Walmart wanted value, Target wanted style, Toys R Us wanted variety. Bingo. Understand what your customers want, and if you're not sure, do something revolutionary. Ask them. And then they don't tell you the right answer, ask them again. And they don't say the answer, say, how else? Say, what else? And don't ask, why can't we do anything? God, don't ever ask that. Because all you're going to get is an answer what you asked. You're going to get, why can't? Say, how can we do that? How else can we do that? What else can we do? That, with passion and a bunch of people who believe, was what allowed us to go from 22% share to 33% share in 10 years. From 11,000 bicycles a day to 21,000 bicycles a day with 10% less people, to being the leading supplier of every major retailer in America. By the way, I didn't do any of this. The people did. I was just there, holding my hand up. That was how we did it.
Another question? So stunning, John. You've got him speechless. This meeting's adjourned.